Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's more complex than a North Korean propaganda musical, about their glorious leaders' impeccable taste in hats, the countries that support North Korea. Because believe it or not, North Korea has friends. In fact, it has friends like how a raccoon that learned to high-five has friends. It's fascinating, a little unsettling, and you can't help but wonder how it happened in the first place. Now you might be thinking, North Korea? The country that's basically a human rights bingo card with extra squares for threatens nuclear war and hairstyles frozen in time? Yes, that North Korea. But despite its laundry list of controversies longer than Kim Jong-un's alleged list of banned haircuts, several nations maintain ties with this hermit kingdom. So buckle up as we explore the curious case of North Korea's international relations, where the line between ally and reluctant acquaintance is blurrier than Dennis Rodman's latest tattoo. Let's unpack who these countries are and try to understand why they haven't hit the unfriend button on North Korea yet. First up, we have China, the nation that makes up approximately 90% of North Korea's international trade. That's right, folks, we're talking about the kind of economic dependence that would make a teenager with their parents' credit card blush. China is to North Korea what a vending machine is to a college student during finals week, a lifeline. But this relationship isn't all spicy ramen noodles and late-night karaoke sessions. China often finds itself playing the role of the exasperated older sibling, publicly scolding North Korea for its nuclear antics while simultaneously slipping it a 20 under the table to keep it from causing too much trouble. You see, China's support for North Korea boils down to a few key factors. First, there's the whole "we share a border" thing, which always adds a layer of complexity. It's like having a neighbor who blasts polka music at 3 a.m. while practicing their chainsaw juggling routine. You might not like it, but you also don't want to make them angry. Second, China sees North Korea as a buffer zone between itself and the US military presence in South Korea. Imagine a geopolitical game of Risk, and North Korea is that one strategically placed territory that keeps the other players on their toes. And finally, there's the economic angle. China benefits from keeping North Korea afloat, as it provides cheap labor and a market for its goods. It's a classic case of it's complicated with a dash of don't bite the hand that feeds you thrown in for good measure. Next we have Russia, a country that needs no introduction when it comes to, shall we say, complex international relations. Russia's relationship with North Korea is a bit like that one friend you had in college who was always down for a good time, even if it meant borrowing your car and returning it with an empty gas tank and a questionable smell. Historically, Russia and North Korea have been as thick as thieves, or at least as thick as two countries united by a shared border and a mutual distrust of the West can be. However, things have cooled down a bit since the glory days of the Soviet Union, when Russia was basically North Korea's sugar daddy, providing economic and military aid like it was going out of style. These days, Russia's support for North Korea is more strategic. They're like that friend who's always willing to be your plus one to a party, even if they don't necessarily like the host just to mess with their ex. Russia sees North Korea as a way to irk the United States and its allies, and they're not afraid to use it to their advantage. So, while Russia might publicly condemn North Korea's nuclear program with one hand, they're also quietly providing economic assistance and blocking UN sanctions with the other. It's a delicate balancing act that would make even the most seasoned diplomat break a sweat. Now let's talk about Iran, a country that knows a thing or two about being on the receiving end of international sanctions. Iran and North Korea are like two kids who always get paired up for group projects because no one else wants to work with them. They might not be best friends, but they understand each other's struggles. Both countries have been labeled as rogue states by the US, accused of supporting terrorism and pursuing weapons of mass destruction. It's like they're both members of the same exclusive club that no one wants to be a part of. But hey, at least they have each other, right? Iran and North Korea's cooperation goes beyond just commiserating over their shared pariah status. They've been known to engage in a bit of a quid pro quo when it comes to military technology. Think of it as a geopolitical bake-off, but instead of cupcakes, they're trading missile technology and nuclear know-how. This partnership has raised concerns among Western nations, who worry that these two countries are helping each other circumvent international sanctions and develop even more dangerous weapons. It's a situation that's about as comforting as finding out your neighbors are building a potato cannon in their backyard. Chapter 4: Syria, the friend in need of weapons. Let's move on to Syria, a country that's been embroiled in a civil war for over a decade. Now you might be thinking, what does a war-torn country like Syria have to offer North Korea? Well, as it turns out, quite a bit. Syria and North Korea have a long and storied history of military cooperation dating back to the Cold War. It's like a friendship forged in the fires of mutual anti-Western sentiment, seasoned with a healthy dose of arms deals. Over the years, North Korea has reportedly provided Syria with everything from missiles to chemical weapons technology. It's the kind of friendship where you send each other questionable gifts that you know deep down neither of you really needs. But hey, it's the thought that counts, right? This cozy relationship has drawn international condemnation, particularly when it comes to North Korea's alleged role in helping Syria develop its chemical weapons program. It's a situation that's about as fun as discovering your roommate has been secretly breeding poisonous spiders in the bathtub. Next up we have Venezuela, a country that's been through more political and economic turmoil than a reality TV show about a family of raccoons trying to run a five-star restaurant. Under the leadership of the late Hugo Chavez and his successor Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela found a kindred spirit in North Korea. Both countries share a deep-seated distrust of the United States and a penchant for thumbing their noses at the international community. They're like two teenagers who bond over their shared love of loud music, questionable fashion choices, and a burning desire to rebel against authority. Venezuela and North Korea have engaged in various forms of cooperation, from diplomatic exchanges to economic partnerships. They've even reportedly collaborated on military training and technology, which is about as reassuring as finding out your dentist moonlights as a lion tamer. This unlikely alliance is fueled by a shared desire to challenge what they see as U.S. imperialism and promote an alternative world order. It's a bit like a geopolitical buddy comedy, but instead of wacky hijinks, they're engaging in activities that make diplomats break out in a cold sweat. Now let's talk about Cuba, a country that's practically synonymous with vintage cars, salsa music, and a complicated history with the United States. Cuba and North Korea go way back, their friendship forged during the Cold War when they were both firmly in the Soviet Union's camp. They're like two old friends who still reminisce about the good old days, even if those days involved questionable fashion choices and a healthy dose of paranoia. Both countries share a socialist ideology and a deep-seated resentment of the United States, which has imposed economic sanctions on them for decades. It's like they're both members of the same support group for countries that have been ghosted by the US, and they bond over their shared experiences. Cuba and North Korea have maintained relatively close ties over the years, engaging in diplomatic exchanges, cultural collaborations, and even a bit of trade. They're like two roommates who have been living together for so long that they've learned to tolerate each other's quirks, even if those quirks involve questionable hygiene and a tendency to hoard newspapers. While their relationship might not be as headline-grabbing as some of the other pairings on this list, it's a reminder that North Korea's network of support extends beyond just rogue states and aspiring nuclear powers. Finally, we arrive at Zimbabwe, a country that's no stranger to controversy itself. Zimbabwe and North Korea's relationship is a bit like that of a master and apprentice, with North Korea playing the role of the slightly unhinged mentor, imparting its wisdom on a willing student. Both countries share a history of authoritarian rule and a penchant for thumbing their noses at the West. They're like two kids who got sent to the principal's office for starting a food fight in the cafeteria and bonded over their shared disdain for authority. Over the years, North Korea has reportedly provided Zimbabwe with military training and equipment, helping to prop up Robert Mugabe's regime during its most repressive years. It's the kind of friendship where you send each other birthday cards with pictures of tanks and missiles on them. While Zimbabwe's relationship with North Korea has cooled somewhat in recent years, it remains a reminder that even the most isolated and ostracized regimes can find friends in unexpected places. So there you have it, a glimpse into the strange and often unsettling world of North Korea's international relations. It's a tangled web of political expediency, economic interests, and shared ideologies, with a dash of anti-American sentiment thrown in for good measure. It's enough to make you wonder if North Korea is actually a master strategist playing a complex game of four-dimensional chess, or if they're just really good at finding friends who are willing to overlook their, shall we say, eccentricities. Either way, one thing is clear: North Korea is not as isolated as it might seem. It has friends in high places, and those friendships have real-world implications for international security and stability. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Let us know in the comments which country surprised you the most.